This video includes equivalent fractions, adding fractions, multiplying fractions, dividing fractions, mixed fractions, and the fractions test, as well as all the homework shorts test solutions. Every segment of the video has a chapter, so feel free to skip to the chapter you're interested in if you don't need help on every single topic. Enjoy. How do I go from this to this? So in that case, we're going to be dividing by 2. So you want to do the same thing to the numerator. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the answer for this first question here is 1/2. So 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2. So that makes sense visually. 4 to 8 this time, so it's actually multiplied by 2. We're going to do the same thing to the denominator. So 9 times 2 is 18. In this case, I can recognize that the answer is just going to be 1/5. If you don't see how that works, you can think of this as 25/5, which is the same thing as 25 divided by 5, which is equal to 5. And since our question is flipped, we would want to flip this, which would give us 1/5. That's it for today. For homework, go ahead and do these 2 questions here in blue. So here we're going to go with 28 divided by 4, and that's going to give us 7. So we're going to do the same thing to the 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So that's the answer to homework question number 1. For the second one, it's a reducing fractions question. Here you want to look at what can we divide the top and bottom by. In this case, it's 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 21 divided by 7 is 3. So when you're adding fractions, the key here is you want to have a common denominator. For the first question, the denominators are already the same. So you can kind of think of it as they have a shared denominator of 7. 2 plus 4 is 6/7. For the second question, we can change 1/2 into 2/4 by multiplying the top and bottom by 2. Then once you have a common denominator, you can combine them and do 2 plus 1 equals 3. For the third question, it's a little bit harder. Apply the first fraction by the second fraction's denominator, and we're going to multiply the second fraction by the first fraction's denominator. This is a good trick if you just want to have a quick common denominator and don't really care about the lowest common denominator. And last, we're going to do 3 times 3, which is 9. 7 times 1 was 7. We're going to add those together and get 16/21. Go ahead and do the blue questions on the right for homework. The first question here, we're going to multiply the top and bottom of the second fraction by 2. That's going to give us a common denominator of 8. And then we get 7 plus 2. That gives us 9/8. And then for the second question, we have a common denominator of 15. 1 times 3 is 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. So for multiplying fractions, it's actually pretty simple. All you do is you multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators together. So for the first question here, we just do 3 times 5, which is 15, and 4 times 7, which is 28. And that's it. Now for the second question here, we could do it the same way, but the problem is it's not going to actually give us a reduced fraction. This one is completely reduced. The next one will not be. 3 times 8, 24. 4 times 9, 36. Now this is not reduced. So I don't personally like this version of it. Instead, what I like to do is to reduce before multiplying. 3 goes into 9 3 times, and 4 goes into 8 2 times. And that means the answer is 2/3. Now, once you get to this step, it's kind of clear that this first fraction can be reduced very easily. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 9 divided by 3 is 3, and we get our 2/3 again. If that still doesn't make sense, so 8 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2. We leave the 3 alone. 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. And 9 is the same thing as 3 times 3. Now we can start to cross out stuff that's the same on the top and the bottom. The 2's here are the same. The 3's here are the same. The 2's here are the same. And we're left with 2/3. That's why the cross reducing works. So 5 goes into 25 5 times. 7 goes into 21 3 times. 5 times 3 is 15. So we end up with 15/1, which is the same thing as just 15. Go ahead and do the homework questions on the right in blue. We're going to start off by dividing both of these by 8. leaving us with a 2 and a 3. Then we're going to divide both of these by 5, leaving us with a 3 and a 7. Then we're going to cancel out the 3's here, and we're going to be left with 2 over 7. The second question, we're a little bit easier. We're actually going to do 1/2 here and 1/6 here, and we get a final answer of 12. So dividing fractions is very similar to multiplying fractions. There's just one extra step. So let's go ahead and do the first question here. All you need to do is take the second fraction and flip it, and then change the division sign into a multiplication sign. So we can cross reduce the 3's here, and then we get a final answer of 2. Let's try another one. Flip it and change to multiplication, and then we can cross reduce and get 20. Divided by 9 over 12, and then flip the fraction, and then you can cross reduce, and then you can even reduce more, and we get an answer of 1. Go ahead and do the homework on the left there in blue. So first thing you want to do is you want to flip the second fraction and change the division symbol to multiplication. Then we're going to cross reduce. 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 2 is 6. Second question, same thing. In this case, the actual fractions themselves can be reduced quite a bit. Going to take the first fraction here and change it into 2 over 1. You can take the second fraction here and change it to 3 over 4. And then we're going to end up with 8 over 3. For the first question here, we're going to simply switch from a mixed fraction to an improper fraction. So when you're doing this, what you want to do is you want to take the denominator and multiply it by the whole number. So 2 times 3 is 6. Then you're going to add that to the numerator, and then you're going to add those two numbers together, and you're going to get 7 over 2. For question number 2, we're doing adding fractions. So we're going to start off by adding the whole numbers. 3 plus 1 is 4. Then we're going to get a common denominator. 2 times 2 is 4, and we're going to end up with 4 and 5/14. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 3. And then 15 times 1 plus 13 is 28 over 15. Then we would need to flip the second fraction and change it to multiplication. Then we can cross reduce. Go ahead and do the blue questions on the left. First question here, we're going to start off by subtracting the whole numbers. 6 minus 3 is 3. Then we're going to get a common denominator of 10. 2 minus 1 is 1. So we get a final answer of 3 and 1/10. For the second question here, we're going to switch them into improper fractions. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Then we're going to do 26 times 1 plus 10. That's 36. Then we're going to do some cross reducing. We get a final answer of 9 over 2. Here's question number 1. You have 1 minute starting now. Okay, time's up. Answer to question number 1 is 9 over 7. Okay, here's question number 2. You have 1 minute starting now. Okay, time's up. Answer for question number 2 was 41 over 20. Okay, time's up. Answer to question number 3 is 18 over 5. Okay, here's question 4. You have 1 minute starting now. Okay, time's up. Answer number 4 is 1/3. Okay, here's question 5. You have 1 minute starting now. Okay, time's up. And the answer is 20 over 33. I'm planning to release full-length videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then shorts on Wednesdays and Fridays. Welcome to Fractions Test Question 1. In this case, we can divide both the top and bottom by 4 and get 9 over 7. One way to do this is to break down numbers into their common factors, and you can see that both of them have a 4 in common with the two 2's here. Welcome to Fractions Test Question 2. For this question, we want to get a common denominator of 20. To do this, you need to multiply the first fraction by 2 on the top and bottom, and multiply the second fraction by 5 on the top and bottom. And then you do 3 times 2 is 6, 7 times 5 is 35, then you add 6 plus 35 to get 41. Now, you could also have done this by just multiplying the denominators together and getting a denominator of 40. This would result in multiplying by slightly bigger numbers, but it would eventually reduce down to the same solution. Welcome to Fractions Test Question 3. For this question, we're going to start off by doing some cross reducing. 4 goes into 24 6 times, 9 goes into 27 3 times, 9 goes into 45 5 times, so we're left with 18 over 5. If you're not sure how to do that, you could break down the 27 and the 45 into the prime factors, and then you'll see that they both have 9 in common inside them. Welcome to Fractions Test Question 4. For this question here, we're going to start off by slightly reducing this first fraction, then we're going to rewrite it and flip the second fraction. Then we can do some cross-reducing. And we get a final answer of 1/3. Welcome to Fractions Test Question 5. For this question, we're going to start off by making everything into an improper fraction. 11 times 2 is 22, plus 6 is 28. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21. Then we can rewrite it and flip the fraction. Now we can cross-reduce. 7 goes into 21 3 times, 7 goes into 28 4 times, and we end up with 20 over 33. If you're not sure how to do the cross-reducing, you can look at the common factors of 28 and 21, and you can see that there's a 7 in common in both.